Good evening. If we can stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody. First item up is our report of the chairman, and it's a discussion regarding our Board of Education Committee liaison assignments. So, and I don't think I heard from Jessica back, so I'm going to assign her something. That's what happens when you're not here.
Volunteered.
Yeah. Okay, so Board of Finance liaison, and this is go into the monthly meeting of the Board of Finance. Then we're getting rid of Communications Committee because we really don't have a Communications Committee anymore. So we're just wiping that one out. Cooperative Education Services Liaison is actually going to the CES meetings, and they're once a month down in Trumbull in the morning.
Yeah, they're during the day.
And are they a set day and time?
I think it's consistent, like the third,
Okay.
whatever, we'll get that. exactly.
Okay. Curriculum Council,
They're at 4 o'clock once a month.
4 o'clock once a month, and they're
Yeah.
on a set day too,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And Alan, you're off that, right?
Yeah, I don't get out till 3:40,
Yeah.
and I have bus duty, so
Yep.
sometimes later.
No problem. Finance Committee, Policy Committee, Youth Commission was an old one, we're wiping that one out. Professional Development Committee, Jerry, did you do anything with that one?
No,
Do we,
because
should
I
we?
was on the policy committee and just totally,
Okay, so I think, what is the professional
I
development?
mean, it's, we plan on professional development days, and in the past, people have been, but really hasn't, there's really no need.
Okay, so we're gonna get rid of that too, because we don't need that. And then obviously Pension Committee, which meets once a quarter.
Quarter, and I'll stay on that if.
Right,
that's
and
okay.
there's actually 2 people who are supposed to be assigned to that.
There
Superintendent.
are
Yeah, no,
Oh,
okay.
another board member?
Yeah, another board member.
Okay.
superintendent plus 2 board members somewhere?
I think so, yes.
I've
Gabby,
not seen one.
is that, the pension
Not two.
committee, it's just one board member and the superintendent, right?
I thought it was 2.
I think it's 2.
I thought at one point it was Donna and Alan, but I'm not,
No, 'cause
I could be
Da-
wrong,
David
Alan.
went the whole
Yeah, I'm
time.
not on the
and,
pension.
but
You
Lee
went
might have been on
I've-
it at
I've
one
been on
point
it since I
also.
took Shannon's spot.
Yeah,
It used to be me and Jim Agostine.
Mhm.
and
I
there
think we
was
do
no
have
other
2
board-
seats though,
Really?
we do. And that is once a quarter.
Yeah.
I can ask and report back, Donna,
Okay,
because myself and the superintendent are voting members.
I mean,
right, I
Yes,
think
Mike
I think we
did.
actually have
Text
2
Mike.
Board of Ed seats.
I'll ask Mike.
All right. All right. Anybody have a preference on what they would like?
I'd like to keep where I am if I could. and that's the
Policy?
Policy, yes.
Yep.
Same.
And I know George wants policy, so then policy is all set. There's 3. I'll stay on Finance Committee.
I'll stay on finance.
Okay, and I know Christine wanted Finance Committee to stay, so all set.
And I'll stay on safety if that's okay.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, we didn't even have that listed.
Thanks.
Am I missing any committees?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, because we were missing safety and security. And David's staying on that. Jeff, any preference? You have Board of Finance Liaison, CES, which is, like I said, in the mornings, a quarterly seat on Pension Committee, and Curriculum Council.
I can do corporate.
You like curriculum? And they'll get you the day, it's 4 PM once a month, but it's a set day.
Yeah, as long as it's a subject, I can arrange make that work.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a set day, and they have a whole thing. Oh, there she is. That's okay.
We assigned you to like 7 committees.
We didn't sign you to anything yet.
Welcome to garbage and litter pickup.
All right, Jessica, we have left Board of Finance Liaison, which is going to their monthly meetings. CES, which is going to their monthly meetings, but it's during the day in the morning,
And it's in Trumbull.
and it's in Trumbull.
Okay.
We have Pension Committee, which is once a quarter, and that's at night. Any preference?
For the one during the day in Trumbull, do you know what day of the week it happens to be?
I'm trying to find it. What's the name of that group?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, I-
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
No,
get
what's
that
the name of
information.
the group that meets? Like, do we, is it?
It's their board, the CES board.
I don't know when they meet. That was, that Carlos used to do that one.
I'll go with the pension one. just
The
to be
pension
sure.
one, that's once a quarter.
Great.
Okay, so I'll put you
And
that,
that's at Town Hall.
and that's at Town Hall.
I will send all that information.
Sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought.
I just found it. It's called the CES Representative Council,
Uh-huh,
and let's see, it's got all of their meeting dates. Okay, meeting time was, looks like 3 p.m.
it's in the afternoon, not in the morning?
Yeah,
I
this
thought-
was,
I thought they met in the mornings.
That's what I
let's see.
We'll get that information.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll double check.
Yeah, with my youngest in preschool, the timing is an issue if it's during the day.
Yeah, this is the one. This is-
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they met in the mornings.
Yeah, I'm looking at agendas for 2017-18, and
We're just doing
November
committee
2nd, their meeting
assignments.
was at 3
Okay.
p.m.
I left you on policy. I'm sorry, it's 3?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the agendas for this year. It looks like they're 3 p.m. this year.
Okay. All right. So we'll get confirmation on that. So we're all set with that one. We're all set with that one. So we'll just need CES, but we'll need to find out when the date and time
Yeah, I'll
is
get
of
that
that
out.
before we can kind of assign somebody
I'll send
to
it out
that.
on Friday letter.
I mean, if it's in the morning, I can do it, but if it's at 3 o'clock, that's not a good time. What?
That's a hard time.
That's a really difficult time. So we'll get that one, so we'll leave that one open for right now. So as we stand, for CES is open until we can confirm day and time. Curriculum is going to be Jeff. Finance is myself, Alan, and Christine. Policy is George, Shannon, and Jerry. Pension Committee is David and Jessica. And then Safety and Security is David. Oh, Carlos. First Thursday of the month at 3 p.m. So it is a 3 p.m. meeting, first Thursday of the month.
He's
That-
watching on TV?
No, I texted
Oh.
Carlos to say, when did they meet? Because I knew he would have the information. So it is 3 p.m. That takes me out. Is anybody able to do first Thursday of the month at 3 p.m.? That's a really difficult time. I would say Christine is out with that too.
I'm sure she can.
All right, we're gonna have to figure that out.
I'll figure it out and get the minutes sent to
Because
us.
everybody with work and kids, that's kind of, if it's the morning, it would be fine, but 3 o'clock does not seem
Okay.
as a good time. So we're gonna need to leave that open at this point. All right. All right. So let's move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Thank you. Do I have a second? Jerry? Thank you, Shannon and Jerry. John, do you want to talk about our one appointment of a new physical education teacher at Monroe?
Sure. You'll see in your packet an appointment form for Emmett Cole. Emmett Cole is a PE/health teacher, and that's what we were looking for elementary schools, a PE/health teacher. So now all of our elementary schools have PE and health certified teachers, is what we wanted. He worked in the Milford schools for the last 5 years as a health teacher, and he really is interested in more PE than health. So we've interviewed, Mrs. Cavacci and her committee interviewed,
Interviewed four, but we had over 15 applicants, but we didn't.
weeded them down, people that had both certifications and things. And
We
so,
had 30 that applied,
Right.
only 15 of them had votes.
both certifications. So we weeded it down.
Wow.
And actually, I was involved in the demonstration lesson, so I think Jack and I both went to the demonstration lesson that he did, and he was right on target, and everything worked out well. So his school is holding him for the 30 days unless they can get somebody to take his spot, so they're actively interviewing now. So it might be before the 8th of January, but right now, his start date is the 8th of January.
Okay. Great. Any discussion on anything on the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Great, thank you, motion passes. We will move on to our reports and our committees and our liaisons, and our board reps from Massacre up, and I just want to say congratulations, Kevin and Will. Early decision for Duke for Will, and early decision for Villanova for Kevin. We are proud of you, congratulations. Take it away.
All right, I'll try. So we have a short time between our next meeting in terms of school days are concerned. We have the next meeting the day we get back from school, so we don't have a ton to tell you guys. But there is a strings concert tomorrow, and our Rotary Student of the Month, Diana Wallet, a senior, will be honored this Thursday.
We got 2 alumni events coming up. One for DECA. It's the 10th year of DECA. So to celebrate on this Thursday, we're having an alumni day where all the alumni are coming back, or as many as can make it. And so the officers, including me, have been emailing all of these people from up until 10 years ago, trying to get them to come over. And we're expecting a good turnout of people to come by, so that's really cool. Also on the 4th of January, we'll be having an alumni day for Massic. That's going to be a Thursday. And I remember from last year, it was really a cool experience because it was the college kids, the freshmen, coming back and telling you how easy college is. And then, the other kids saying, they just got out of finals, so they're really tired and getting back on sleeping and Netflix. So it was a really cool experience, just to kind of hear that everything's going to be okay, even though it's stressful now. It'll all work out in the end. So.
Winter sports had begun pretty much yesterday with both the girls and the boys basketball team having a game on this past Friday, and both teams came out with a victory, which was good. And basically, we are our last day of school is Friday. It's a half day, and then we enter into winter break, which is about 6 school days off, and then we're back to work. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any other committee reports? Since we just kind of assigned them, probably not. All right, hearing none, we will move on to public participation. All right, seeing none, we will move on to the report of the superintendent.
Okay, just wanted to update everyone. We did end up finding a nurse to cover the nurse that has resigned from Massac High School, and she started actually today. Guys, take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Her name is Karen Julian. She was the school nurse at Kristen Heritage, and so she's moving over to us now. And before that, she worked in a dialysis unit. So she has some great experience. She started today, and we're really excited about her experience and what she can bring to the team. So that happened. And Gabby's going to go over the fund statement.
We're ticking away. We're just about halfway through the year. Insurance is better than it was in previous months. It's still not perfect. As of today, we're about $600,000 in the reserve. I was explaining during the Finance Committee meeting that December is going to look a little funky. There's more, it's going to sound odd, there are more Fridays in December, and traditionally Cigna looks for money on Fridays. So December 1st was a Friday, so which really we're those were really November and October claims, so December's probably gonna look a little, not ugly, but it's gonna look a little more depressing than November did. But just sort of kind of keep that in mind. It's really just a function of how many weeks there are in the month. But we're still hopeful that we're going to have a positive trend. We've had some interesting expenditures on our HVAC system at Jockey Hollow. We've had 2 cracked boiler sections which have had to be replaced, and we're monitoring those. We're not going to replace the entire boiler. It's a lot cheaper to replace the sections, and the boiler still does work. We have heat in the building, and also we got our final bill for the water leak that we had back in November, and it was only about $7,000, which was really, really a pleasant surprise. I think we were all expecting a bill closer to about $25,000 or $30,000. That was from Burns Construction. They really did a great job. They were out here from about 8 at night until about 6 in the morning, repairing that and patching it and everything.
And making sure we can get to school. So.
And making sure we could get to school, because we definitely had a little bit of a sleepless night on that night. So they did a really good job for us. And that's pretty much where we're at.
We jinxed Jockey Hollow. Was it like our last meeting or two? We were talking about the capital expenditures in the different schools, and,
Right.
and somebody was asking nothing for Jockey Hollow. So
I would, yeah.
I wasn't going to name you.
That's all right.
Hey, Jerry, don't say anything anymore.
But you jinxed Jockey Hollow.
We have some more information that we're going to share with you about that too. So now we're going to talk about the budget. This is the last 2 sections of the budget for the workshop, special ed and athletics. And if Jack and I and the people for special ed's up first, we have a slideshow that we'd like to share with you. But before we get to that part of it, we said that we would answer any questions, or if you had any questions, we could answer any of them from the last 2 presentations.
So speaking to Jerry's questions from last time, I wanted to get you an answer. So these 2 slides show you our capital plan for the capital plan is for big projects. So the 2 big projects we look at over time are roofing and tank replacements. So what we have here is each one of our schools, when the roof was replaced, and you might recall this from last year, we had this in last year's budget book, and then we have the warranted years, and then we have the projected replacement. Now, one of the things you'll notice with Jockey Hollow is we have searched everywhere. There's no record of a warranty everywhere. And again, you might remember this from last year's presentation that was shared last year as well. So Jockey Hollow was built in 1998. Based on the repairs we've done to the roof, we're projecting that it's going to go 25 years from the construction date. And as you can see, that's in line with most of the warranties, not all of them. Some are 20. And this one's actually 30, but based on that, that takes us out to 2023. So you can see next roof that's coming up actually is Monroe L. That's only a 20-year warranty on that roof, so that's 2022. So just to let you know, it's all about age and it's all about the duration of the warranty. That's how these are staged out over time. And then the other one is tank replacements, and these 2 are based on year of installation and warranted years. All of them are 30. And then that takes you out to when the tank replacements are. So you remember from Gabby's presentation, 2019 Monroe L is next, and then the next replacement is Massac, because that install was 1990. All right, so those are big projects. Our ongoing maintenance work is always occurring. One of the projects we just did at Jockey Hollow this summer was the elevator was converted to swipe cards, which has really been a bonus for us because it's another way that we encourage use of the security system. It just encourages everybody having these, and the other nice thing about it is we can remotely schedule the use of the elevator. So if we want this to come off of card use after school is closed so that anybody can use the elevator, we can do that from a remote console anywhere using a web interface. So those kinds of things are going on in all the schools, but the big items, that's the way that they're done. So hopefully that answers questions about that.
And much of the capital planning, the little things are in our budget. So that's how we're able to do that.
What did we replace at Monroe out front last year, year before?
We did warranty work on the roof.
No, electrical.
It was the electrical.
Oh, the transformer. Yeah, there was a vault out in front of the school. It was an old underground transformer system. They had to come out of the ground, and now there's above-the-ground transformer located to the left of the gym.
And water.
Yeah,
Didn't
the
we do
water tank got.
That water tank
When
was
we
leaking.
did it, we had to take, there was an old water tank there before city water came in, and that had to come out of the ground because it was right up against the electrics.
And the equipment, when we're looking at the trucks, that's mostly at Massick because the other elementary schools and the middle school, we don't take care of the grounds. We hire out for that. So that's why when you see truck replacement, it's really Massick. They're the ones that do the plowing, they're the ones that do the mowing, that kind of thing.
Monroe L has city water now?
Yes.
Everybody does.
All the schools do?
All the schools have city water.
So, before we go on to special ed, any questions from the last budget presentation? Any thoughts or questions about that?
David, just go ahead and just jump in. We're in workshop, so
Okay.
there's, just jump right in.
Just a quick question about going back to the capital planning for a minute. I noticed when we talked last meeting, we were putting aside, I think it was around $40,000 a year for the turf replacement. With the exception of the roofs, are we doing anything similar, like putting away X amount of dollars every year for a vehicle, for tanks, or for anything like that? So this way, it's not just one lump sum that's hitting us, like this year for a truck.
Right now, we don't have anything earmarked, but there is some money in the capital reserve as we go along. Gabby, what's the capital reserve? Do you have?
It's a few $100,000. Wait, hold on. It's about $169,000. Sorry.
So,
Forgot
40 is
about-
earmarked for the
Turf
turf carpet that has to be replaced in 10 years. When we put the turf field down at the stadium field, we use some of our capital reserve to do some things like the speaker system or the lights or things like that. So over the years, we have used that capital reserve funds for other projects, but mostly.
Do we put any money away, or, I'm sorry, do we put any money earmarked for capital reserve to build that up every year?
Yes.
How do we do it?
That's what we do at the ends of the year, when we know our numbers, and then we vote on where the money goes. So like last year, we put money towards our insurance reserve.
Well, we requested through the Board of
Right,
Finance
right.
the money,
I mean-
and they allowed us to put that money in there.
We don't have there's no specific line item in the budget.
Not on our side.
Not on our
For
side.
capital to put aside?
Right,
No.
we have to just request it from the Board of Finance.
The issue is, the state law only allowed us to start doing a capital reserve account about 4 years ago. It's called the 10-248A statute, which allows boards of education to put aside money before that. If we had money left over, it was returned to the town. So this is something, I don't want to say it's new, but it's somewhat new
Newer,
for us.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
newer, as opposed to, you might talk to people who live in, say, New York State, and they are allowed to carry money over, and districts traditionally carry over, like, $1 million. If we tried to do something like that here, I don't think that would be very well received.
We don't have that ability to do that. But we do use the capital reserve
But
for
we
some
do.
things as we go along.
Yeah, no, I just know from doing other budgets, it's better to earmark a little bit every single year and put it aside for, the vehicles, the projects, stuff like that. We did it on EMS commission, we put X amount of dollars, almost like you just did with the tanks. We know it's gonna cost this much, so let's put 10 or 20 away every
Something
single,
we could look into
every
doing.
single year for
How much
that.
did we put in last year at the end of the year? 'Cause-
It was a total of, I think, 60, of which 40 went to,
Right, so
40 went to the
20.
turf
I remember
field,
us
20 went
doing
into
a
capital
Right, so
reserve.
that's what goes to that capital
Right.
reserve. Whatever we have that
And
we
then-
didn't spend, left over,
Right.
we'll
Right.
put to
And then,
that.
like,
account.
And we've had some
200
discussions about doing that for technology hardware in the future, to do that. Because we want to continue to refresh our technology. So that was a conversation that we want to have too.
Yeah, something we can think about.
Right, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Anything else?
John, when you say only the grounds that are maintained in-house, is that Massick? The other schools, who maintains them? How does that operate?
We have a company that we hire out to maintain the name of the company is?
I think it's about every 5 years, we do an RFP for lawn maintenance. And so right now, we're with Prestige. I believe that contract comes up in probably about 2 years.
And so they do our other schools, but Massac High School has a
Right.
crew and equipment, and we do our own fields and our own mowing.
So under the grounds maintenance and part of the budget, that's in that category then?
That's in that category, and it's also plowing.
Well, snow removal is in a different line item, but the other thing about with the grounds maintenance, we do have 2 maintenance workers here at the high school who are also tasked now. There's been a little bit of a shift in their positions, and they're also tasked with helping maintain parts of the grounds, not necessarily the mowing pieces, but things like bringing in mulch, doing some other kinds of more landscaping type maintenance.
In the other schools.
At the elementaries and at the middle school. And part of that was because of, with having the turf field, we have less maintenance on our fields up here. We don't have the twice a week mowing and the painting of lines and so on and so forth up there.
Just to clarify that too, the snow plowing, we do all in-house.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do all in-house for all the schools.
Okay.
The mowing, we do it up at Massac, and we hire Prestige for the other schools. And landscaping, if we seed things, we can use the Massac people for that. Any other thoughts of the last budget presentation before we move on to special ed? Okay, so Kay Moser, the director, and Darlene, the assistant director, is here. And Jen Parcell is in the back. She's the secondary instructional leader for special ed for the high school.
So we're going to be in section 9 of the book, but before I get to the specific lines that I want to refer to, I just want to kind of talk about the enrollment and what our numbers come from. So last year I showed you this slide up until that point last year, so I just kind of want to go through it again this year. October 1 of 2016, we had 380 identified special ed students district-wide. From October to June of 2017, we had 31 students graduate. We had 18 students withdraw, move, or were dismissed from special ed services. We had 8 kids move in with an IEP that was already written, so came identified from another district. And then within district, we had 54 referrals that became eligible. So from October to June, our number went up to 391. Okay? Over the summer, so July 1st to October 1st, when we do our next our child count, 13 more kids moved or were dismissed, 20 more kids moved in with IEPs, and we had a referral over the summer or in September that was eligible for services. Since our October 1st, which was the child count date, to today, we've had 6 more kids withdraw, move, or dismissed. We've had 11 additional transfer in with IEPs. Thank you, Shannon, for your real estate that you're. And then we have 11 kids that have been referred and were eligible. So you can see that I graduated 31 last year, but since July, I've had 31 kids move in with IEPs. So right now, our current number as of today was 415 students, which is about 13% of the population, which is probably the highest we've been. With enrollment going down and our numbers going up, our percentage is increasing.
And when Donna and I went to the legislative breakfast, that was a consistent theme that we heard with all the districts, that the numbers 5 years ago were under 10%, and now they're all up at 13, 14, 15%.
Okay. And you will look at the 54 number for referrals that were eligible last year, but we're going to address that in this slide.
So when you look at the enrollment numbers, as Kay said, students transferring in with IEPs has been a growing number for us in the past couple of years. And just to drive that point home, since December 1st, we've had 4 students move in with IEPs, just since December 1st. So, but Kay mentioned that referral number, that 53 number, we have students who were referred and deemed eligible. That number is broken out into this slide, and if you look at 2014, 2015, we had 62 students referred and eligible, and that bottom blue box shows you that there's 24 students at the birth to 3 and preschool level. And then the red box is the K to 12 referrals. So the 24 number is 39% of the referrals for 2014, 2015. And then in 2015, 2016, we had 53 students who were referred and eligible. 16 of those were birth to 3 preschool, and 37 were K-12. In 2016, 2017, you could see 54 were referred and eligible, 23 at the preschool level, and 31 at K-12. So that brings our preschool numbers for the last 3 years between 30 and 40% of our referrals, and we really have little control over that. A lot of our kids come from the Birth to 3 program, and and then we get a lot of referrals for parents with students who have special needs and are entered into our preschool program.
Darlene, can you explain for our new board members exactly how that works with the whole preschool portion? Because they
The birth to
probably are
three.
hearing
The birth to
that for the first time and not sure what that means.
So the birth to 3 process is that children will receive services through the birth to 3 program, which is a state-run program. And what happens if they're receiving services through birth to 3, by the time they're 3 years old, we have what is it? How many months?
Just once they turn 3, they
Once
start.
they can start once they turn 3, but we have to back up and we have to have a PPT in district for these students before they enter our preschool program. So we take that IEP and we put them into our preschool program here in Monroe. So we have little control over that.
If they turn 3 in January, they can
We have
start
to take them
preschool
at
then in
January.
January.
Yeah.
It's a state law.
Yeah.
So the
so
state
those numbers
law.
grow all year long.
So for birth to 3, the state's providing the services. After they turn 3, the schools become responsible. All school districts are responsible for special needs kids from age 3 to age 21. So when they turn 3, they are enrolled in Monroe Public Schools. I think you remember either last year or the year before, a lot of parents weren't coming to birth to 3 because the state changed the guidelines of birth to 3, saying they had to pay for more services. So they were no longer free services. Parents were having to pay for like the speech and the OT and the PT. So a lot of parents opted out of the birth to 3, which is part of that 24 number because we were getting kids without any early intervention strategies, which caused our referrals to kind of go up because they weren't receiving services prior to turning 3. So it's still up and down, but birth to 3 the blue is really kind of out of our control. And you'll see that the red is it went down and it's kind of flattening out, but the ILs are not here tonight. But a lot of that we can credit to them too. The services and the SRBI process that they're implementing is helping with the referrals to special ed.
And can you explain that? I'm just, because there's a couple of new board members who have no idea
So the
what
secondary
those.
instructional leaders are these K-6 to 12. They're not coordinators, they're instructional leaders. So they do the language arts and the math and science and social studies. They implement a lot of like workshops and teaching the special ed teachers how to also work with regular ed students. So it's kind of an intertwining of services. Special ed teachers are working with regular ed are working with special ed teachers, back and forth. The process is to keep the students out of referrals to special ed, so we try to give them tiers of services so that that doesn't happen. So the referral never happens. But unfortunately, after a while, if the more severe interventions are not helping, then the referral to special ed takes place. But again, we changed the SRBI process probably 3 years ago, and we have seen a difference.
And can you tell them what that stands for? Just because they don't know some of those acronyms. Like, we know them, but
we're going to have to do a whole other work.
Jeff and Jessica don't know what we're talking about.
And I think people who are watching don't know.
So SRBI is scientifically research-based interventions.
And so if you remember a few years ago, now probably 5 years or 6 years ago, when you made the change from department chairs just at the high school to the secondary instructional leaders, some of which now do K-12, we've seen a big change. They're able to bring more expertise down to the elementary levels. And again, our goal is not to keep kids who really need special ed service out of special ed, but our goal is to give kids as much service as they can in the regular ed program so that they can make the gains they need so that they can be successful. So that's when we're talking about that SRBI That's all those scientifically based interventions so that kids are getting what they need so that they can move ahead.
And if you look at the red part of the graph is the K to 12, and when you break that down further, most of the referrals are at the elementary level. In 2014, 2015, it was 25, middle school was 3, and the high school was 9. And then again in 2015, 2016, 29, 7, and 1. And then just last year, 23, 6, and 2. So you can see that students are being, when they do get identified, they're being identified early on. The SRBI process, the interventions, weren't working for the students, but I think that the district believes that early intervention is important, and so that we put those interventions into place in hopes that, the students will find success later on in school and be dismissed, and we do dismiss students from special ed later on in their career, in their school careers.
So just so that everybody's clear, so we have different levels of intervention. So if there's somebody who is identified that needs reading help, there's different levels of reading help that child gets. So it may be a group thing that they do, and if that's not really working, then they go to more of an individual pulled out of the classroom and to get them the help they need. So that's what they're talking about, this scientific research-based intervention.
And that may be before they're identified. Though it's very intensive before they're identified,
Right.
and then afterwards they not only are identified, but they continue to get those services plus more.
Right. I just want everybody the new people that don't understand what that is, just so that they're aware.
So that's the total population for special ed.
No, those are just the referrals.
That's new.
That's the total population of,
Right there.
that one is.
415 is the total population.
The 415 is our total population of special ed right now.
And that's
And
the
that
new
was
This
people.
right-
That's
referrals.
new each year.
Right.
That's,
The blue
yeah.
one, yeah.
The red and blue slide was just referring to this high number. But, yeah, so that was just showing you since 14, 15, how referrals have happened.
And why that jump, that 54 jump? On
From-
the previous slide? The jump of 54 kids
I don't think
referred
he's talking about this
in
slide,
1
he's
year.
talking about a different slide.
That's just the amount of referrals that happened in a year. So what we're showing you on this slide is that it was 54 last year, but the year before it was 53. But the year
Okay.
before that was
So if you
62.
can go to the previous slide, 54 came in 1 year, were added to the program in 1 year.
Yes.
Yes, from October to June.
Okay, so why did that happen? What was the cause for that?
That's in line. That's in line with the
It varies.
53, 54.
So some of it was the preschool. So the 23 kids were preschool kids that came in, so they turned 3 and came in or were referred.
So this trend occurs every year?
Yes.
So
And
as
actually,
we
we're trying
graduate,
to-
you're
and we're
getting
trying-
about 50 new kids.
Right, and we're
every
trying to
single
get those down with the SRBI process.
So in 2014-15, it was 62. Then 15-16, it was 53, and 16-17, it was 54.
Do you have this graph further out? So, I mean, are we seeing an gradual increase?
We
in
didn't
kids that
start
we're seeing?
keeping the specific data until that 14-15 year, but we'll keep it from this point on. But we don't have the specific breakdown prior to that.
We have the number, though.
Yeah.
And so is the number of referrals before that?
And
I
you
mean, are we
said from your
seeing an
meetings.
increase?
I think we're seeing a decrease.
We're seeing a decrease.
We're definitely seeing a decrease from year to year. I think the increase, if we're seeing one, is in the blue section. And again, that's up and down depending on the year. But younger people are moving into Monroe, and I think that's probably where the birth to 3 numbers are coming from. Okay? You can't talk, because if you're going to jinx me, then we're not going to let you.
I'm
Oh,
just
you have
smiling.
laryngitis?
I mean, if you look at what they're trying to say, people are moving into Monroe because it's Monroe. We can't dictate who moves in. They're moving in because our special ed program is run so well. And that's why they look at Monroe. So that number could go up to 100. I mean, it's just.
Let's hope not. But
I
Jerry,
understand.
I
I'm just.
swear.
Jerry, after jinxing us about Jackie
It's a
Hollow,
double-edged
it's best not to talk.
sword. But it's a double-edged sword,
is.
though.
It
We
absolutely
work so
is.
hard to raise who we are. Yes.
It's a compliment to our team.
That's
I mean,
driving
Darlene
it.
and I have a great team, so we're not, it's a compliment to our team.
I think Shannon's point is well taken. I think our special ed program is good, our regular ed program is good, so I think people are moving in because of the schools.
The schools in general are driving the whole thing around.
And we continue to look at the trends in the data, not only in the number of referrals, but in our changing student population, because we know that, for instance, there are more students, more and more students being identified with emotional issues. So that's a change in our student population. So our next slide shows us how we are looking for cost-effective alternatives to servicing students.
So in addition to looking at trends, this is kind of just a list of things we've done this year to look at cost containment. We meet monthly. Darlene and I go to monthly meetings with the Fairfield County Association of Pupil Services Administrators. We kind of talk about what's happening within the Fairfield area schools. We have the same concerns, mental health concerns, burden of proof, which is proving that, we were not wrong by what we've done, and it's costly. And then independent educational evaluations is also a hot topic right now. So parents can request to have an individual education evaluation independent educational evaluation completed rather than the school do it, but at the school expense. So that can be costly, and it's a matter of whether you want to fight it and pay the lawyer fees or agree to the IEEs. But they are on the rise. So we're meeting with them, we're having discussions with them.
And as the assistant, and it might be beneficial for you to know too, that attending these meetings, I think it makes us feel like, we're not the only ones in this situation, because we go to these meetings and we hear from all of the districts that these are the hot topics. These are the things that are, districts are trying to figure out to help it to be more cost effective for them.
In Connecticut, the burden of proof is on the school system. In most states, it's not.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, we're one of 5 states, I think.
One of 5 states.
And what that means is, and that was part of our conversation when Don and I went to the legislative breakfast with our legislators, what that means is the person who says, or either the parent or the school, whatever entity says that this program isn't meeting the needs of the student, we're saying right now, even if a parent says that, it's the burden of proof is on the district to say, yes, we are, and we have to prove that we are. They don't have to prove that we're not. And in the other states, other than the 5 states, the person who brings that up has to prove. So if a parent brings it up, then they would have to prove that it isn't acceptable. And we would show that it is or it isn't. So Connecticut, that burden of proof is a big deal in Connecticut.
How much does it cost approximately per student?
Depends on the day. I've had hearings go for 2 days, or I've had them go for 13 days.
And how many per day? How much money per day?
The attorney, myself sitting in a room, and the staff that has to get subs to testify, to present their testing, or so.
But it's something that we brought to the legislators' attention. At this point, it doesn't seem like there's any movement on that.
There's no movement on that.
The stuff that the state requires and doesn't fund is
Oh, it's
a huge.
It's killing all the districts.
Yeah.
It's killing
like I
every
said,
municipality.
it's a common theme. It's not, it does make us feel better when we hear other people going through the same issues as us.
Right.
In addition to that, we've been meeting, we just started in November, meeting with the DIRG B directors. And the format of that meeting is you come up, they give us 3 topic questions. We answer the questions during roundtable and kind of just share all the ideas. We did get a great idea from the last one about a paraeducator, kind of a form if children specifically need one, the forms that they would need to fill out to prove that the paraeducator is needed. So we have already got great things from them and that we will be using within district. We've been ongoing discussions with neighboring districts, Newtown and Trumbull, to see if there's any possible programs we could share. We have needs, they have needs, but we don't have the needs high enough to start our own program, but maybe between the 2 districts we could come together to kind of share a program and share services. So that's ongoing. Last year in the IDEA grant, I was able to put in for a board-certified behavioral analyst, a BCBA. She's here 20 hours a week. She's in every building, and I can tell you, and I think some of the principals behind me can tell you, that she's been an asset from the time she started until now. She meets with school teams. She comes out with great ideas. She's training paras with some of the behaviors and how to keep data and move forward. And so with that, we're not going outside as much, which I will show you in an additional slide. We are also in talks right now to have a consulting psychiatrist who's been doing some of the evaluations for us, but he's willing also to come every other month and meet with the school teams and kind of do brainstorming through some of our mental health cases. So rather than going to a full-blown evaluation, he's willing to come to meet with the teams and do strategies and do that. So it's another area that we're looking at. In addition, we're looking at transportation. This year, I currently have Ed Advance, CES, and 2 taxi companies, VIP and Curtin, that are transporting some of our students. We'll continue to look at that and the cost savings of that as well. So that's where we're kind of moving forward. We'll always take new ideas, any ideas that you guys have as well.
Okay, can I ask a question? We're seeing a lot more behavioral issues now that are coming up as opposed to, how to phrase it, more than like school type issues with learning academics. We're seeing a lot more behavioral issues come up, which we have not seen in the past. And
We're also seeing a lot of mental health issues that lead to those behaviors, which is scary. But again, meeting with the other directors, it's countywide. We don't know the reason. I think John, with the adding of the social worker, may help a little bit to get someone into the homes that we can't go into and help the families from that end as well.
And I have to say too, the BCBA has been working, specifically, she's had about 16 students that she's been working with throughout the year, and some of her strategies have definitely improved behaviors and have made it so that the student can stay in district. So it's been very helpful, but again, we only have her for 20 hours a week. She's part-time, so that makes it a little bit more difficult for her to reach out to more students.
Can you tell us more about what your social worker's doing?
We don't have one.
Your intention for the social worker?
The social worker intention would be to work with the school team as well as to help the parents with some of the home services. What we're seeing is that the separation between leaving the family and getting to school is becoming an issue. So a lot of the behaviors are the first half hour from like 9 to 9:30 because they didn't want to separate for whatever reason from their family. It would be helping those parents at home have morning strategies or some sort of, checklist at night, that kind of thing, to help them get ready for the school in the morning.
So it'd be across grade levels?
Oh, yes. It would have to be. Yeah, we have a lot of attendance issues with high schoolers as well, with school phobic at this point. Okay. All right. So the first line that I want to talk about is the professional educational services line. This line includes all the programming, as Donna had said, for the behavioral issues, both outplaced and in-district services, and it's also for all the special ed kids that attend magnet schools that get special ed services at those magnet schools. So we're not paying the tuition of the magnet school, but we're paying for the additional services they receive at the magnet schools. Okay, so it's out of district and in districts for IPPI, which is the Institute of Professional Practice. Creative Solutions is another behavioral service. It's a company that does behavioral services with BCBA. And then CES has someone that we contracted with because last year we were having a high number of behavioral concerns, and she would come in and kind of help us out. I'm looking with the BCBA currently that we could eliminate some of those services with having the BCBA on board. So I'm hoping that I can eliminate some of the current.
If you had 2 part-time BCBAs, would that be cost effective? Like,
If I
would
had
it
2
save you money
part-time
would it
or 1
cost you money?
full-time would be.
What's that?
2 part-time or 1 full-time would be cost effective.
Oh, I thought
20
2
hours.
part-time might be cheaper than 1 full-time because of benefits, I thought, but.
Right now, we're not paying her benefits. She's contracted through a.
Yeah,
so
it's not a.
It's not a employee of ours.
So it would be
We're
a contract,
contracting.
whether it's 20 hours or 40 hours, it would just be a contract, you wouldn't have to.
Right
pay
now,
for
we're
the benefits.
contracting, so.
Where are you contracting with?
Constellation Services.
Oh, okay.
So
she works in someplace else as well as the 20 hours she does for us.
I was just wondering if it would end up, if spending more money there would save more money than you spend.
It possibly could. John and I have actually had that discussion about this particular line. So it could. It would just matter of putting it down on and looking through it.
And what would that cost be, roughly?
It depends. A BCBA is highly qualified. There's a specific test, there's specific training that they're entitled to do, so they are a high-cost person. I haven't ever priced them out as a full-time employee.
There's not too many schools graduating that degree.
Yeah, I mean,
think
you're not
there's-
really you don't graduate with
there's
a degree,
hardly
but you
any
have to take the
that good.
training and then pass the
Yeah.
test, and the test is the hard part. So, but you'll see that there's no additional students projected for next year. However, the tuition for IPPI had gone up approximately 8%, which they had not raised for a while, so that's the reason for the increase in this line. So it's no additional students, but the tuition was a higher rate. Okay. The next line is public tuition, and this includes school year plus summer school. It's for CES and REACH kids. REACH is a program that we share with Trumbull. It's for our OHI, or seriously emotionally disturbed students. They're actually housed in Trumbull. It's at the Madison Middle School, their campus. So our kids are bused over there for the kids that attend that program. We were able to bring students back from that program this year and attend Massac High School, and we also had some kids age out. So our numbers are down for projected next year, so it's gone from 18 to 15. In addition to that, there are transition programs for our 18 to 21-year-old students who no longer will attend the high school. They've met all their academic requirements, but they still need life skills or vocational skills. So they go to separate programmings when they're with age-appropriate peers. So the RISE program is at Sacred Heart campus. They don't take classes, but they do participate in age-appropriate things with peers there, a fitness program, and they also do the lunch bunch and that kind of thing. But it's no academic courses, even though they're on the Sacred Heart campus. And then the Western Connection program, they can participate in classes, so it's a different type of student that would attend that program. Okay? Because again, we have to educate them from up to age 21. Next to tuition, which also includes summer school. And this also includes what we talked a little bit about before with mediations and settlement agreements. Sometimes rather than going to the due process hearing, we will mediate and come up with an agreement, and that is in this line as well. This line is down. We have brought students back, and we've had students that are actually graduated or aged out. So next year we will have 3 less students, which is the huge savings in this line.
Where's Crotched Mountain?
New Hampshire. Okay. Okay, this line is a transportation line. Currently, what you see up here are all the buses and the services that I'm currently using for transportation. Okay, so the All-Star buses are $364 a day. The vans are $303 a day. However, I have an Ed Advance van that's going out of district that's only $156 to $172, depending on where they're going on that trip for the day. CES is $240 a day, and then the taxis that I'm using vary from $140 to $180, or Curtin is $135 for their current trips. So depending on where they're going, that's their current trips. I'm currently, and not me, Darlene and my secretary Tracy Ballo, who is on top of all of this, is we're in dialogue with the companies to see what there is available to do for next year for all of them, for them taking over all of it and getting rid of the All-Star buses for us, because you can see the huge price difference in an All-Star bus and a van that's going from Ed Advance or CES.
So talk to me contractually about that. What's
I'm gonna let
happen
Gabby
to
do that.
All-Star? Okay, Gabby, talk to me contractually about that. It's a great idea, I love it, but what happens?
Basically, the way our contract with All-Star reads, it's pretty much at our discretion to eliminate a bus or buses. As you recall, we did that for this current year with the magnet school. So it's effectively at our discretion.
And, you know, the Ed Advance and CES are special ed programs.
Right.
So when they're providing transportation and we have to have a bus aid on, these are bus aides that work in their special ed program most of the, during the day and then take the buses in.
Right.
So they have a different expertise with dealing with students on a bus.
And a different expectation.
And a different expectation. So this is something that came out of these meetings that the superintendents have had, that the special ed directors had, and the business managers have had over the last 4 months. It's only been this year.
Really since
where
October.
we've kind of gotten together to see how we can do some savings. So that's when this came out of that. So we were really very happy with this. And you know, we're going to keep going forward. Now, the problem is they can't provide at this point everything that we need. So that's why we're talking to them about further training of some of their staff. Can they get more vehicles? Can we do some switching or sharing? So that's why we really don't have a number about more than the 70,000, what we can say.
So we would be the only school system so far looking to fully use one of those?
I don't
four?
believe so.
No, no.
Okay.
Lots of school systems. I mean, I see the Ed
I mean,
Advance.
if you're riding down the highway, you see them all the time.
I do. But
And I'm constantly writing down names of them to see if I can call them to see what their prices are. Anytime I see a new kind of sign on the side of a van, I write it down.
I mean, there's also concern with dilution, that, if they expand too much, will we be back in the similar kind of position we're in now, even though it's cheaper? So you kind of need to be, everyone needs to balance that.
I think the message here and what we wanted to share with you is that we're looking at every stone. We're looking to see what we can save in every area. And, special ed this year has been the place where we've saved some money, thanks to Kay and Darlene and Jen.
Those are the only budget lines I highlighted. Before I go into talking about excess costs, are there any questions on the budget lines? Otherwise, I'm going to walk you through excess costs.
And excess cost, those are, excess cost and ECS are the two grants that we get. Now remember, the ECS grant that we get from the state goes directly to the town. And that's the one, when we talked about this budget from the governor, we were gonna get 0 and ended up getting, 5.5. The excess cost comes directly to the school system, and that's when we thought from the governor's budget, we were gonna get 1.5 million, but we only got 800-something thousand. And so that's why Jack and I just before this meeting, went to the Board of Finance and asked if we can have that $1 million contingency that was in the budget cover the excess cost shortfall. And both the town council and the Board of Finance both agreed to transfer the money to us to cover the cost. Again, the money they got was almost $3 million more than they thought. The money we got was 628,000 less than we thought. So they did transfer the money to us.
Okay. So the formula that we use to create excess cost is the per pupil expenditure times 4.5 times equals our threshold. Currently, the per pupil expenditure is 16,686. So you multiply that by 4.5 and you come out with 75,087. So any student that's over 75,000 for their tuition or their services is eligible for excess cost. Okay, so I'm just going to walk you through a sample example student on here. So this particular student, the tuition is $83,152. The transportation with the aid is $47,876, and this is a year long. The other equipment that we needed to purchase or any evaluations that were done outside of the district for this student was $3,305. Then their summer programming with the transportation was $8,224, and then $8,601. So their total came down to $151,158. Okay, so I take that total, I subtract out what the threshold is because it has to be over the 75,000, and I get 76,000 left that I can apply to excess cost. Technically, if the state reimbursed us 100%, I would get that 76,000 back. But Gabby and the next year, we're going with the average that we've had for the previous years is about 70% that we get back out of that. So we're only get 53,000 of that 76 back.
So this is another case where the state of Connecticut said their obligation is to pay for excess costs for special ed students. But when it comes down to it every year, they don't pay 100% of that excess cost. They pay something less than that. And traditionally, it's been around 70%.
It's varied.
It could be more next year, it could be less next year. But 70% is what we've used for the last, since Gabby, I think, has been here.
I mean, I want to, even going back about 11 years, 70% is what's been used. In those 11 years, I can think of 2 years where we've gotten 100%, a couple years where it's been 50, but it's ranged in the 70 to 75%. So 70% is probably the most conservative estimate that I would use in terms of what we
last
get
year,
back.
based on the governor's budget, we didn't use this formula. We just took what the governor said we were going to get, which is 1.5 million. For the next year's budget, what Kay put in is traditionally what we've always put in. So I know that the town council and the Board of Finance asked, are you going to have that shortfall next year? We don't believe we are because we're following the traditional way we do excess cost.
And we have to file for excess cost December 1st. And again, I want to just say that our administrative assistant, Tracy, is fabulous. She gets it down to the penny, and I tell you, she finds pennies that I don't even know where she gets them from, but she finds them to get them into this formula so that every kid that we can possibly qualify, we qualify for excess cost. She files December 1st. We file with the state. March 1st, we have to true up and certify it March 1st. So any kid that comes in after March 1st for this school year, if it's over that threshold, I can't claim. I have to wait till the following year. So I would lose all that money that we would spend out for that particular child after March 1st, we don't get back from the state. That's our money that we have to spend out for those kids that move in. Okay? And currently we have 22 students eligible for excess costs. We have 5 in-district kids and 17 that are out of district.
So, in this example, the state is paying 53, or the state is paying, what's our portion of that? Is our portion the 53, or is our portion 76 minus 53?
We're getting back 53 after putting all that money out.
All right, so
We're paying 151.
We're putting,
Getting back.
we're paying 151 and we're getting back
Back 53.
Which doesn't cover transportation. In your example, that's amazing to me that over a third of that
It's
is transportation.
Yeah.
well, that includes the aid.
Right.
Right,
Yeah,
so
Right.
but
it's-
that's a huge number.
It's basically one aid effectively.
So, any questions on that? All right, and that's it for us.
So special ed this year is down. Last year, if you remember, it was up a lot. But this year it's down, and I think it's because of the hard work of the team. I think they're looking at every possible way to save money. And, you know, we're not done yet. So, you know, well, hopefully we can find some more in transportation.
Okay, just a ballpark figure. I don't know how you're even gonna come up with it. What's the average cost of an out-of-district child from Monroe?
It truly varies.
You can't even give a ball, I
you
got you,
can't even give
I
a
understand,
ballpark. It truly varies. Some of them strictly are tuition costs. Some of them have services for OTPT. It truly varies. And it truly varies where they are and what the type of programming is.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no special ed costs, we'll go into athletics. Any special ed questions, Michael? Special ed questions? So our athletic director, John DiGennaro, and master principal, Joe Cobbs, are here to talk about athletics. And I think this is, and if you go to section 10 in your book, you'll be able to see some of the backup that John's going to talk about, and then he's going to talk more on it.
All right, thank you, John. I'll just move on. All right, thank you. Before I get into the numbers, just to talk a little bit about overview of our program and a little bit of a year in review. If you've come to some of the meetings that I hold preseason, you may have heard me talk about Massac High School as we run an education-based athletic program. And I thought before we get started, it may be a good idea to briefly expound upon that statement that I make. I believe each athletic venue serves as an extension of the classroom, so there needs to be an educational component attached to all interscholastic athletics here. Here, high school sports exist to provide student athletes the opportunity to grow, to learn, to achieve, and fail in an environment of minimal risk. Our coaches often say to their student athletes, focus on the process. And I believe it is that process where the life skills such as resiliency, self-discipline, time management, making decisions under duress, and goal attainment by putting off immediate gratification are learned. Make no doubt about it, our coaches and our student athletes plan, prepare, and work hard to win. But they all understand that success is a byproduct of doing the right thing. And hopefully, as you can see by the overview of last year on the screen, our student athletes and coaches are working very hard here. We have 32 athletic programs, and some offer freshman and JV, so that's why you will see 52 levels of play for 32 athletic programs, and that includes the unified sports. there are three very important items that I'm very proud of, and our coaching staff and our student athletes are very proud of. And it includes our participation rate, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And the fact that most of our programs in the last year, and maybe 2 or 3 years, have either won sportsmanship programs alone for the league, or have definitely won citations for outstanding sportsmanship. And finally, last year, 146 of our student athletes earned all SWC academic honors. And what you have to do to earn all SWC academic honors is achieve high honors during your sports season. And in my 13 years as an athletic director, that's the highest number that we've ever had. Usually we go between 90 and 105 for the year. So 146 was just an outstanding number. And I was going through the numbers in April and May, and I kept on going through them. I was like, wow, we're going to be close to something special here. And they did. Everyone did a great job. I talked about participation. And as you can see up on the screen, the bar graph depicts 3 different numbers from the years 2011 and 12 to 2016 and 17. The yellow bar is total enrollment of Massac High School, and you can see as the total enrollment of this school has gone down over those years. The light blue number is total athletes, and sometimes we have a little bit of confusion there, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. That total athletes number is basically roster spots. In other words, and how I calculate that is I get all my programs, all 32, with all 52 levels of play, and I add up all the rosters of all those kids, student athletes, and that is total athletes. The unique athlete and the percentage there, I always look at it, I think is very important. Most important number for us. Unique athletes represent one number, so one student athlete. So if you play football, if you play hockey, and if you run track in the spring, you only count as one. All right, that's a unique athlete. So counting them up, that number along with that percentage of our total enrollment, of our unique athletes to total enrollment, as well as our total athletes or roster spots, has increased while our total enrollment has gone down. So in 2011, 2012, 51% of our student body participated in the athletic department in scholastic athletics here. And last year, we had increased that number to 60%. That includes, we've added some programs. We've added girls ice hockey, which is great. But the number of roster spots are increasing in certain programs, and that involves a lot more unique athletes coming into the fray. So, very proud of that number, especially 60%. We constantly try to improve that. I probably won't be happy till we get like 90, but I don't know if that's obtainable. But we're going to keep on trying to increase that number. Revenue projections to match the expenditures. We get our revenue from 3 different spots. Gate proceeds first. That number, it comes basically from a 3-year average. I kept it sort of stagnant over the last couple of years. That number is, we get it from football games and boys and girls basketball. Those are the only 3 sports that we charge for. And quite frankly, it mirrors college and professional ranks. The more we win, the higher our gate proceeds will be. And I've already saw an increase in the fall in our gate proceeds. Hopefully that will increase over the winter as well. The next one is our surcharge collection. I estimate next year that will approximately collect $199,000 in surcharges. That's a 1.5% increase, and that's increased basically because of our participation rate increases and our number of unique student athletes increasing. That's just going to go up. And, well, how do I get that? Well, what I do is I take a 3-year average of all of our programs, and I plug that number into the formula I've created for estimated surcharge collection, and that's why the number's gone up with our participation rates increasing in certain sports.
And if you see that number, it's different than the number on our budget revenue source, because this is just Massac High School, and our number includes Jockey Hollow surcharge increase. And remember, if we wanted to reduce that surcharge increase, That total number is a 0.41%, almost 0.5% of the budget. So if that was something that the board wanted to do, you'd have to add 0.5% to the, almost 0.5% to the budget.
And then I'm going to break down the main drivers of our budget. Our officials. This one is sort of usually a game for me, trying to figure out exactly how much we're spending. I try to, if I could get any savings of our total budget, I try to find it here quite frequently from year to year. I create that number from 3-year cost analysis for each program. I was able to try to squeeze out $1,100 from that. Now that number goes up and down based upon home games that we may have. And one year in basketball, say we have 11 home games. Next year we may have 9. So I do over a 3-year average. But I project some savings of $1,100. Our uniforms, up $575 from last year. We're in a 5-year purchasing plan. Next year, you see the 4 programs that that we'll be purchasing new uniforms. I've tried over the years, to separate the different sports, so around the same each year in terms of what we're spending. Next year, we're going to buy, I think, for 5 or 6 programs, but the price will be around the same. Some smaller programs. So that's just basically on in terms of the up and down, maybe 500 here or there, is based upon the program and how much the uniforms cost. For example, baseball, the athletes over the last 5 to 10 years just want to buy their own pants. They want to buy their own pants, and they wear them throughout the whole year. So we would be able to increase the amount of tops we wear, so our whole program wears the same top, freshman through varsity. But the kids want to buy their own pants, so they'll rip them and then they'll wear them through summer and the fall ball, because as the amount they play all year round, they're wearing their pants. So that's something that we've just done the last 5 to 10 years. So as I said, those are some of the cost deviations for each uniform that we may purchase that you'll see. Our transportation, up $10,000. Part of that is a rate increase, and some of it you increase in program size. Example, our boys outdoor track team has the last 3 or 4 years has grown in numbers and success. Last year we won the Double M championship, outdoor track and field championship, and the year before we won the league indoor championship. We now take 2 buses to sporting event to meets with the amount of student athletes that are participating in outdoor track and field, and obviously doubling the cost. Also with competitiveness, just say for the boys outdoor track, we're now going to certain meets to make sure we have enough athletes qualifying for the state meets, and we'll go to different places. Sometimes we'll go a little bit further in distances. Competitiveness, looking at a different lens or a different way. Take for example our softball team. Years ago, when we over the last 10, 13 years, we've been pretty good at softball. Sometimes it's harder. It's more difficult to find games. People don't, 2 teams that played us last year don't want to play us this year, which is understandable. So the game that I had to schedule this year was, do 1 year home, year away, was Fitch. They beat us last 2 years, one in the state championship and one in the quarterfinals last year. We're playing them here this year, but I got to go on the road to play Fitch next year. And that's on the other side of the state. So we've had to do this. Sometimes when your teams become very good, we don't want to play, so you got to travel. Challenges, the budget may go up and down. As once again, as you get better, you may have to go on you're playing in more state tournament games. Okay, and each of that is a bus cost. Also, a game at the end of the year, you win, you lose. You win, you have a home game in the state tournament. You lose, you may have to go on the road. And depending upon how many buses are going on the road with you, that could be a $1,500 bump in your transportation budget for that type of situation. So those are the challenges. We try to contain, double up JV, maybe baseball and softball together. Certain teams when we can. I can't schedule in order to double up, but when there is opportunities to double up our teams, we do. And then we try to curtail how far we're going for scrimmages. In regular season, we're going to have to play some teams, but for our scrimmages, we do. We try to shorten the distance. athletic supplies and other athletic costs. We're sort of putting these together, combined, so from year to year, they haven't gone up much. You'll see a 9,000 increase on one side, 9,000 decrease on the other. So they're sort of balancing out. And this is where we would have, other than the normal equipment that we buy for our teams, it usually stays pretty much stagnant from year to year. Things that we need includes a capital equipment purchase each year to make sure our equipment is staying safe and the best equipment for our student athletes to develop. The next year, in this budget, I am buying cheerleading mats for our cheer program and our dance program as well. This year that we've been buying a lot of equipment for the swimming pool. Swimming is an expensive sport with respect to making sure the pool facility is what it's supposed to be. And previous years I bought wrestling mats, which are sort of large purchases. Wrestling mats, chair mats usually cost around $9,000. So that's where you'll see those big purchases. Moving on to two of the last things, crowd control and trainer. There is a bump in crowd control. Crowd control is site directors, ticket takers, people on the clock, people in the scorebook. There has been a bump, twofold. One, just last month I enrolled us in the CIAC CLACDAC Schools program, and over the course of the time, hopefully I'll have some of our student athletes hopefully come and talk to you folks about it. I started it now, and hopefully we're going to sort of build throughout the spring and really move forward next year with the program. You start to see some signs, but we're going to start our meetings in January. It's where the student athletes are sort of developing the plan of how they want people to act when we come to contests. Coaches, players, spectators. We've done a really nice job with our kids. I talked earlier about the sportsmanship awards, but as every high school has, and even college, you see it. We have our bumps in the road with spectators. So a part of the Class Act programs, we're developing what we want to see, and the student athletes are going to take the lead in that, and that includes putting more people at these games for security, to be proactive. Take for example, we had a semifinal soccer game here in league play, and I had people everywhere. It was against a rival and went so smooth. We had more people here, more teachers, more educators working as site security, knowing the student athletes, knowing the students, and to alleviate any issues before they have it. And obviously, knowing parents and knowing adults as well to make sure everything is under control. And we have increased night use of Bettig Stadium Field, which is going to involve using the clock, announcing, all those type of things. So it's been a really fun fall. To figure that we've had, as an athletic director, 13 years, this was the best weather I've ever had for fall. But it was great that you've already seen the development in the programs. Our field hockey and our lacrosse, what it means to be practicing on an actual turf field, and they've never had to. Our field hockey team never had the opportunity to practice on a full field and on turf. And in our league tournament, they almost beat a team that went to the state finals. They played them in a 1-0 game, and the development of those young ladies has been phenomenal. A lot of that is the turf. Athletic trainer, $1,000 increase. That's the expected contractual increase. It's going to be $1,000 next year. It's going to be $1,000 the year after, and I think it's going to stay flat the following year. And our trainer, we're still going to have our same athletic trainer, Daria Hahn, that we've had over the last decade, which is great for us. Oops, sorry. I don't think I have anything else, but if you have any questions. Hey, Jerry.
John, I have two things. First of all, kudos. I mean, this is incredible. When you look at the spreadsheets, I'm looking at soccer. Of course, I coached it forever, and you have the actual breakdown of everything. It helps us out a lot. What I don't see, but I don't want to throw a curveball at you, is any projections of revenue from the new field, from her field, any rental we get from other organizations, any outside income anticipated?
I think, and you know, and I've talked to Gabby quite a few times about this. I think that's going to take a couple of years
Agreed.
to go through that and say, okay, have we seen certain places starting to rent, and have we had feelers for over the summer?
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that's going to take a couple of years to get some, where we could, Gabby and I could say, okay, these are going to be any of the projections that we could get within revenue.
I think it'd be nice if we can get one of these outside organizations to kind of book it, on a consistent basis. Some of these Yankee Uniteds or whatever, some of these travel soccer programs, some of them have homes already. If we can lure them this way, I know that's definitely a goal of ours, is to use it to generate some revenue.
Awesome.
And just like the revenue we generate with the theater, we put the money back into theater.
Yes.
We
of
needed
course.
We need
I
a new
didn't mean it.
soundboard.
Yes.
And so the money, we were able to purchase a new soundboard this year from the money revenue from the theater. So I think that's what we'll look at, doing more of that.
The revenue, Jerry, would actually go under the revenue section, under facilities revenue, so that's where that goes.
Thank you.
So any other questions for athletics for John or Joe? Again, I think John does an excellent job, and maybe it's his business background, but he does an excellent job of showing us where the money is and where we go with that, so we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
So that really ends our presentations on the budget. So we've gone through all the different sections. So if you have any questions tonight, we certainly can answer those. If you have any questions you want to send to us, we'll make sure we get those answered for you for the next time. We do on the 2nd of January. We'll have another time for any questions that you have. Jack and I'll be able to answer some of those questions. And then that's the night that you vote on the budget to send to the town. So, any questions? Okay, thank you.
We have a question from the audience about lighting on the fields. Is there an increased cost of lighting?
So far, we really haven't seen a huge bump in the lighting. Probably give you a better idea towards the end of the year. If you recall, the lights, actually, our first night game wasn't played until, I want to say it was like October 7th, and it was a girls' soccer game. So it's really a little early to tell. The other problem is in the spring season, the lights don't go on until much later in the evening because of the weather. So if you give me to probably like June,
okay,
better idea.
All right, great. Anything else? John, are you done with your superintendent section?
I am. Unless anybody has any questions about snow or anything.
Yeah. All right, we will move on to old business. We have a policy second review with a vote tonight, and that is on policy 5141.3, which is students' health assessments. Do I have a motion to approve this? Thank you, Shannon. Second, Jerry. Thank you. Any discussion on this? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Great, thank you. Motion passes. We have no new business, so does anybody have anything before we move to adjournment?
Have a happy holiday, everybody.
Yes. Yes, and we will, again, as John mentioned, we will be back here on the 2nd. We will finalize any questions or any slight adjustments, if any, come up with the budget, and then we will be voting that night to on the budget to move it along to the first selectman. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Jerry. Second, thank you, Shannon. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great Christmas or whatever.